Hello, everyone, and happy Friday. Thank you very much for joining this live stream. And as always, I have prepared for you a new segment. And after the new segment, if there are going to be any questions or comments through support platforms, that is Super Chat on Rumble or PayPal or Boosty, of course, I will react on it. Quite a number of news. Day seems to be a little slow news-wise, for now at least, for 12 p.m. Moscow time. But nevertheless, there is quite a number of important reports in Russian media. And of course, I will share with you some of it that I find interesting. Hopefully, you will do so too. And I'm going to start, dear friends, with this report from RIA Novosti, which is based on latest update of Defense Ministry of the Russian Federation that past night air defense systems on duty intercepted 106 drones launched by Kiev regime and their NATO allies to strike deep into Russian territory. I can go through details here. Over the past night, air defense systems on duty intercepted and destroyed 106 Ukrainian aircraft type unmanned aerial vehicles, report states. Russian militaries destroyed 44 drones over the Belgorod region, 22 drones over the Ryazan region, 11 each over the Rostov and Voronezh regions. 7 drones were also shot down in the Kursk region, 4 each in Tula and Volgograd region, and 1 each in Crimea, Oryol, and the Lipetsk regions. In response to attacks by the Ukrainian armed forces on civilian targets, Russian troops regularly strike at the locations of housing of their hostile military personnel, equipment, and also foreign mercenaries, as well as at the Ukrainian infrastructure, energy facilities, defense industry facilities, military command and control facilities, and communications facilities. As you can see, dear friends, geography of strikes, NATO strikes on Russia, and it is NATO strikes, obviously, is quite vast, unfortunately, and it will stay this way until we, Russian Federation, will completely neutralize this Western-backed terrorist regime in Kiev, and we will do this. It's only a matter of time, and as this report stated, Russian militaries are also striking back. There is a regular retaliatory strikes on military logistical infrastructure of the hostile side, energy infrastructure included, which plays crucial role, obviously, for whatever is left from military-industrial complex of Ukraine, also for transportation of troops, for communication. So it is a legit target. And Russian strikes are, I guess, so formidable, so successful that, according to even Western media outlets, the Kiev regime has run out of equipment for repair energy facilities, energy systems. Let me give you some details on that. So Ukraine lacks equipment to repair its power grids. Bloomberg report, Western propaganda outlet. And then energy companies say they are running low on equipment and there are no more power transformers or other critical supplies, the publication states. On Friday, Energy Minister of Kiev regime, Denis Shmyhal, who was a defense minister, right, declared a state of emergency in the Ukrainian energy sector due to severe power outages. State-owned companies were required to purchase at least half of their electricity from foreign suppliers this winter. And when it comes to foreign suppliers, one should keep in mind that mainly energy, electricity, and gas goes through Kiev-controlled territory through Slovakia and Hungary, countries that were targeted by Kiev regime, badly targeted, including terrorist attacks on energy infrastructure inside these countries. And you remember, dear friends, there was at least several occasions when Kiev regime's terrorists attack with the drones refineries, for example, in Hungary. You remember that, isn't it? Residents of Kiev have been without power for several days now due to prolonged outages. Mayor Vitaly Klitschko called the electricity and water supply situation critical. And well, it's not just the mayor of Kiev, Klitschko, that is guilty in what is happening, but Zelensky for sure, right? So-called president of Ukraine, and to avoid responsibility on this situation. And I remind you, dear friends, none of this would happen. None of this would happen if Kiev regime under the leadership of Sir Zelensky in March, April 2022, by the way, agree on the terms, on Russian terms, to end the hostilities. And I remind you, dear friends, preliminary agreement was already in place, and Kiev regime had agreed preliminary on the terms, right? But then we all know what happened, isn't it? Western ruling class get engaged, get involved to derail their possible peace. And unfortunately, they did it successfully. They went to Ukraine. They promised Zelensky and his criminal associates that they will get all the weapons, all the money they will need. They promised Kiev regime that they will not just be able to defend themselves, but to defeat and destroy Russia. And well, everything that happened since, due to these delusional creatures, either from the collective West or their proxy Kiev regime, is definitely their responsibility, exclusively their responsibility. And Zelensky knows that, although he tries to divert this responsibility towards the others, as he's done it before on numerous occasions, and he's attacking Klitschko now big time, mayor of Kiev. And Zelensky, there is an infight that is going on the Kiev control territory inside the Kiev regime itself. And yesterday, day before yesterday, there was a quite severe attack from Zelensky's side on Klitschko, and he's blaming everything on Klitschko now, right? Which is insane. But anyways, none of them did a good job for people of for citizens of Ukraine. This is for sure. But I don't think Zelensky will be able to avoid responsibility. And well, even though many people worldwide, including myself, are expecting Kiev regime's armed forces to collapse big time, seems like energy collapse on the Kiev controlled territory had happened first, and it's already factual. There are reports that hundreds of settlements, hundreds, possibly thousands of settlements, for days have not received any electricity at all. Even in the capital of Ukraine, in Kiev, there are numerous buildings that are completely cut off electricity. There is not even some temporary supplies of electricity. There is no heating, and due to freezing weather, in many buildings, pipes have burst, heating pipes, right? And it's a massive emergency situation that is developing. And now I guess, members of our community, let's say, now members of our community will understand better why I was calling in my videos before winter started that it will be a wise decision on part of residents of Kiev and other cities on the Kiev controlled territory to move to Europe for a time being, at least for this winter time period, because the winter going to be very, very difficult, and I don't want civilians, ordinary citizens of Ukraine to experience any hardship, isn't it? But yet again, Russia has to do what Russia has to do to defeat their enemy, and energy facilities are legit targets. And if you are living in a rural area, in some village, you can deal with absence of electricity. You have your own heating in a place, right? And you can survive without much trouble, let's say. But if you are living in a city, it is much difficult, because when there is absence of electricity and heating, that's that situation when you have to go, right? Because everything collapses. And I guess if crisis continues and further escalates, this energy crisis, energy collapse continues and even escalates further, I guess we will see massive evacuation of the people from major cities on the Kiev controlled territory, including Kiev itself. So I think this topic definitely worth attention, European countries should get ready to receive potentially another couple of million people as refugees from Kiev-controlled territory. Also, dear friends, just before I launched this live stream, I spotted this news on Kirill Fyodorov Vaina Istoria Oruzhia Telegram channel, which is one of the biggest Telegram channels on Russian segment of internet or the platform. And according to this channel, fighters of the Russian army liberated the settlement of Zhovtnevoe in Zaporozhye region. This is eastern part of Zaporozhye region on northern side from Gulyai-Polye, as far as I can tell. Also, dear friends, you might be a little surprised, but the story of a Nord Stream pipeline continues. Terrorist attack on Nord Stream pipeline continues. Attempts on behalf of Washington, U.S. Secret Services, and their puppets in Europe, in Germany included, attempts on their behalf continues to divert responsibility from U.S. and its allies that actually destroyed Nord Stream pipeline, actually conducted this largest ever industrial terrorist attack towards the regime, and they are quite successful in this. I don't know who believes them and their propaganda, but they are continuing to push this narrative that U.S. had nothing to do with it. It was just the Kyiv regime itself, right? Some Ukrainian residents. Initial propaganda was that it was just some independent elements from Ukraine that happened to have expertise in deep dive, in explosions, in everything, right? And they just went voluntarily and destroyed Nord Stream pipelines. And you might laugh at it, but quite a number of people, seems like in the West especially, actually believe in this, right? And all the Western propaganda outlets start happily pushing this crazy narrative. Eventually, it has become too laughable, I guess, for everybody, and the narrative shifted a little bit. They started mentioning names. The so-called investigators in Germany start mentioning names, including Zaluzhny, former head of Kyiv regime's general staff, and so they linked Ukraine to these attacks, right? And now this process continues, and according to Spiegel, German propaganda outlet, investigators are about to point the finger directly, openly at Ukraine. Let me give you this report that I saw on DD Geopolitics channel, a fragment of it. The German court believes that explosions on the Nord Stream pipelines were highly likely ordered by the foreign state. So this is, you see, first time it's there is a talk not just about some private citizens that might have some military experience. It's not just a talk or hints about Zaluzhny, but first time there is direct finger pointing at Ukraine, right? Because it says that it's highly likely that this terrorist attack on pipelines was ordered by the foreign state, according to Der Spiegel, citing ruling by the German federal court. The explosions on the gas pipelines were highly likely caused on the orders of the foreign state. It becomes clear from the documents that the court is referring to Ukraine. Let's make no mistake, they are not referring to US or the UK, by the way, or the Norway or Poland. All these four countries had played a role in this terrorist attack on Nord Stream pipelines. First of all, US, obviously, Biden himself personally authorized this attack, according to a report of Seymour Hersh, award-winning American journalist, well-respected worldwide, award-winning American journalist. And Seymour has said this was a US attack, although Norway was also very actively involved in this. And from my side, I will add that whenever CIA and the Pentagon are doing some crime, usually MI6 is there, MI6 is involved. They almost always operate together. And because it happened in the Baltics, I'm quite sure Poland was engaged also, right? But I guess we never gonna learn, at least not for decades, full truth about all this development, because information will be classified in US. But after 30 or 50 years, probably due to declassified data, well, humanity will learn actually who gave the order, who was participating, names, by the way, right? Most likely will become known. But for now, it seems like American ruling class and their puppets in Europe are fully focused on diverting this responsibility towards Ukraine. And I guess that's what is going to happen. Eventually, Ukraine is going to be blamed. Kiev regime, by the way, right? And if you ask me, I'm quite sure personally that when U.S. security services and militaries began preparations for this terrorist attack with assistance of their British colleagues, Norwegian colleagues, Polish colleagues, potentially Denmark was involved also, because it is a pattern that Denmark usually always involved in whatever dodgy stuff either US or the UK is doing. I don't know why, by the way, but Denmark usually is always there, always involved in some ways, right? Which is interesting. Denmark itself, as a European country, is not really that important. If Denmark important at all in any ways, right? It's only for Danish people it has any importance, not for nobody else, right? No one cares. But whenever there is some criminal activity on part of US and UK, there is always a presence of Denmark there. I don't know what's going on, but that's a pattern. I mean, just check the history, by the way, you will see what am I talking about. And so I'm quite sure when these Western terrorists from US, UK, Norway, Poland began their works to conduct this terrorist attack on Nord Stream pipeline, simultaneously they ordered their puppets, their proxies in Kiev, to create a group that will work on the destruction of these pipelines. And this group was set up actually, and it was from the beginning, this Ukrainian group, in my personal opinion, was designated as a scapegoat. It was tracked, all their steps were tracked, and eventually they are being now given to public as main perpetrators of this terrorist attack, this Ukrainian group, while in reality, it was a setup from the beginning, and a real dirty job was done by American terrorists, British terrorists, Norwegian terrorists, and the Polish terrorists. It's just that's how it is, man, with possible involvement of Danish terrorists. That's how it is. And they are terrorists, by the way. Obviously, they conducted their biggest ever industrial level terrorist attacks. So, of course, they are terrorists. And the countries that I mentioned are terrorist regimes, right? Terrorist countries, 100%, right? Also, because names being named, Zaluzhny was named earlier. Now there is a direct finger pointing on the Kiev regime in general terms, right? And maybe due to these new developments in regards to Nord Stream, maybe due to some trickery that's going on between London and Kiev, Zelensky had a meeting with Zaluzhny. Remember, about 10 days ago, I reported that Zaluzhny was planning to go to Kiev, and Zaluzhny himself and some other sources then denied this information that he was planning to go to Kiev, but actually he went, right? Because yesterday afternoon, media outlets reported, media outlets in Russia segment of internet, that Zelensky had a meeting with Zaluzhny. And I'm quite sure Nord Stream pipeline terrorist attack was one of the topics of discussion between the two. Probably they will try to work out their scheme, how they're gonna try to defend themselves from their possible allegations. But number one topic that they probably discussed, I think, could be the improvised coup d'etat that they might do in Kiev now, right? London might go ahead, and we all know that Zelensky and Zaluzhny both are puppets of the British Secret Services, right? And basically, most of the Kiev regime figures are working for the British Secret Services. US influence is big, but British influence is bigger. It's just very clear, isn't it? And I think when I saw this report, I was thinking, what's going on? You know, there is clearly some dodgy stuff, right? Why would Zelensky have a meeting with someone who has been designated by London as a potential his replacement? And the only explanation I personally come up is that due to current tensions between US ruling class and European ruling class, between, let's say, Washington and London also, maybe London wants to fast track certain processes on the Kiev controlled territory. Maybe London wants to come up with a new game plan, imitate coup d'etat in Ukraine, imitate coup d'etat, remove Zelensky, right, through this coup d'etat, install Zaluzhny in a place, right, and then start manipulating with the topics like, well, in 3 or 6 or months there will be elections and blah blah blah, right? But I guess at this point London wants to fast track the processes, remove Zelensky until US get engaged or get involved in bigger ways, right? Because of course London is a bit nervous when they see operations of Nabu and SAP, right, that are hitting hard on Zelensky and his criminal gang. And mainly, even though Nabu and SAP, the so-called anti-corruption bureaus in Ukraine, have several shareholders, let's call it that, not just American, FBI or the deep state, but also Europeans, including London. Well, I guess London don't want to take chances. They don't want to risk it. They want to make sure that this war continues, right? They want to make sure that Kiev will never agree on a de-escalation, right? And because US clearly has tools in its hands to pressure Zelensky big time due to this corruption stuff and some other things, London will probably fast track process of replacement. And if so, maybe in next several weeks, maybe months or two, we will see coup d'etat playing out in Ukraine. Zaluzhny will take a position of Zelensky. Zelensky will be allowed, most likely, to flee for Israel, and this way London will have a personality. London will basically build a new regime. They will try to build a new regime that will be fully focused on orders that they are receiving from London, and will have a more freedom, or will be less dependent on the US pressure. So let's see, by the way, what's going to happen. But I think London is planning to imitate coup d'etat, and it might be bloody stuff, by the way, right? Even if there is a preliminary agreement already in place between Zaluzhny and Zelensky, how they're gonna play this shit out. Nevertheless, there might be some actual clashes too, right, between different formations, different units. It will be bloody, most likely. But Zelensky will get opportunity to flee for Israel. And don't ask me why all the criminals from Ukraine are running for Israel, by the way. Israel is a safe haven for criminals, Nazis and the fascists. That's why. It's out there, right, on the surface. Anyways, meanwhile, as you know, Washington continues to play this role of sort of a mediator, even though everyone understands that Washington is still, or US is still, leading force in this proxy war against Russia. And earlier there was reports that I already reported that Witkoff and Kushner allegedly were planning to have a visit Moscow and potentially have a meeting with the Russian president in January. This information was debunked then by Trump himself, who stated that he has no idea about visit in Moscow by either Witkov, his special envoy, or Kushner, his son-in-law. And well, on the topic of this so-called peace talks, peace negotiations, well, we have a continuation in quite interesting ways. Due to U.S. activity and these talks between Washington and London, or Washington and Moscow, sorry, that are not really going anywhere, right? It's just a talk for the sake of talker. There was numerous meetings between Dmitriev, aide of Russian president, in U.S. With his American colleagues. Recently, there was a meeting even in Paris, France, right? When he had a meeting with allegedly with Witkov and Kushner. These two visited Moscow on numerous occasions and had a meeting with the Russian president also, not just with aides of the president, Dmitriev and Ushakov, for example. And while watching these developments, I guess ruling class in France become a little jealous. Maybe they are afraid that they are missing out on something here, right? Maybe they want to look beyond this current proxy war that is happening, and France is a part of it, obviously, big part of it. And they want to test the ground. Seems like French ruling class wants to test the ground about possible post-war communication or cooperation even with Russia. And that's why Macron every now and then was saying that, you know what, he wants to have a conversation with Putin, and their conversation with the Russian side is necessary and dialogue has to happen. Recently, Meloni, Prime Minister of Italy, joined Macron on this matter, that there had to be dialogue with Moscow and stuff. And well, there is a main driving force of globalism, right? There is a main force among the globalists that is not happy about it. And what is the main force among globalists? It's British ruling class, right? And well, it did not take long before London expressed its unhappiness with this strange moves on part of Paris and Rome, right? And we have now a report that reports which indicates a split in the West over the negotiations with Putin. Let me give you some details on that. So Europe's efforts to reestablish contact with Moscow have met with resistance from London. What a surprise. Reflecting a diplomatic rift in the West, Politico reports. And this is Western propaganda outlet, by the way, Politico, right? And no one can blame Politico for being pro-Russian and pushing some pro-Russian narratives or something. They are just reporting that, yeah, there is a shifter or rift between European capitals, and it's difficult to ignore, right? It's just there. So Britain has clashed with France and Italy, and this is quote, over whether Europe should resume direct talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. On Thursday, British Foreign Secretary Jette Cooper rejected the suggestions from Paris and Rome that European allies should consider resuming diplomatic contacts with Putin as a part of efforts to end the war in Ukraine. The article said, according to publication, Europe fears it is being relegated to the background in the Ukrainian settlement, and not just in Ukrainian settlement, by the way. Europe is becoming less and less relevant in every possible way, right? And European ruling class in different countries, they do understand. Some are more worried about it, some are less, some have different priorities than others, but it's just factual. It's hard to ignore. That's how visible all this stuff is. Meanwhile, London still believes that Kiev and European countries determine the terms of their conflicts, and which is, well, I guess, not even laughable at this point, that a British ruling class still believes that they can achieve a strategic defeat of Russia and end of this conflict on their terms. Total nonsense, isn't it? But we should keep in mind, dear friends, as I said, global main driving force of the globalism is European aristocracies, right? European elites, aristocracies, generational families of this so-called aristocracy, right, that were ruling almost entire world for last at least 3 to 5 centuries. And once their European empires failed officially as an empires, as a geopolitical entities, these European elites went through other way, right? They try to maintain control through other means, control over the world through other means, and first of all through trade, financial, and the banking system, right? And which side is biggest in this regard? British side, right? British aristocracy and all these clans, including financial criminal clans that were in service of the British aristocracy. And the city of London, by the way, is still to nowadays, even though British Empire is no longer in existence formally, city of London, for whatever reason, is still the #1 financial center in this world. Why? Why? If there is no dodgy schemes that are on which modern, Europe and their modern financial and the banking system, this international trade architecture is built on, right? So London seems like British aristocracy just cannot acknowledge objective reality. Seems like French aristocracy, French ruling class, is more willing to acknowledge that they lost, and they are kind of testing the ground for post-war relationships, right? Because after all, they need the resources now, and they will need resources tomorrow after this war, right? They understand this, and maybe this is the reason why French, Italian ruling class, through their prime ministers, through their leadership, basically, Prime Minister of Italy Meloni and the President of France Macron, are sending these messages towards the Moscow that they want to overcome this current situation and at least test the ground for the future. And this is not okay with London, obviously, because yet again, London, British aristocracy, British ruling class, British elites are the main force, by the way. They're most powerful force, right, in the Western world. More powerful than American ruling class, I think, right? Nothing to be said about rest, continental Europe, by the way, right? And well, I guess this rift, and also we should keep in mind that these aristocracies, these elites in Italy, in France, potentially in Germany too, by the way, in some other countries, they might see current situation potentially as an opportunity to get rid of British dominance, right? They might see it as an opportunity to get rid of British dominance, by the way, and the Italian and the French aristocracy elites, local elites, clearly operating in this framework, and seems like Germany is moving towards them because, surprisingly, Chancellor of Germany, this extreme Russophobe, by the way, is freaking criminal, right? Yesterday, that was, I believe, went to say that, we have to find ways to cooperate with the East. He was talking about cooperation with Russia. And there was a confusion about the statements of Merz. Well, what the hell? What's going on here, right? No one expected that kind of stuff from Merz, man, right? Because, he built his career basically being a freaking Russophobe, right? And a Russia hater, and someone that is all about destruction of Russia. But Germans ruling class, they might have different takes. They might be a little more realistic, right? And pressure, I guess, from this ruling class of Germany is so high at this point on Berlin, on Merz included, that, he is coming up with such statements that, we might have to cooperate with the East, with Russia, and all that stuff. Okay, interesting. And yet again, if this observation is correct, and it is, I think, right, there is clearly a rift in Europe, I think we will see more and more obstacles before London. And soon, British ruling class might find itself either fully isolated in this world or at least partially isolated, right? At least partially isolated. I guess potentially with the exception of Nordic countries, all the others might turn their back on their former masters, British elites, right? They are waiting for such opportunity, man. French ruling class was never okay. I guess I can imagine being ruled by British elites, man, and to take orders from the British elites. You all know long history of fight between the two, right? So, anyways, interesting that even Western propaganda means now are basically in a situation when they cannot ignore certain developments that are just too freaking visible, right? And there is no point no more to pretend that the Western world is so united and strong. They cannot talk about unity no more, isn't it? After all, U.S. NATO member state is openly threatening to occupy territory of other NATO member states. What unity? So I guess after these recent developments in regards to Greenland, some Western propaganda outlets received green light to go ahead and highlight how divided actually Western world is, so that U.S. would not be blamed alone for this divide and the tensions within their so-called alliance, right? Meanwhile, as I said, the UK British ruling class, by the way, they cannot accept this reality. They just cannot, because they are losing everything, by the way. British ruling class was obviously main driving force, isn't it? British ruling... What the heck is going on here? Shit, man, what? This notebook will go crazy soon, I guess. What is this, man? Goodness me. I don't know what you see on your screen, dear friends, but I was unable to see screen at all. Okay. It's okay? I could not see nothing on the screen here. I mean, this notebook is going crazy too. This is older one, right? And anyways, dear friends, sorry for constant technical issues, but well, that's how it is, right? When I'll be in a better place, I will have better equipment and I will do better work. At least will be better prepared from technical point of view. Anna is telling me that there was no issues on the screen, right? I could not see nothing here. Anyways, seems like it's okay now. And well, where I was here, right? I was talking about this unhappiness, to say the least, of British ruling class. They cannot accept objective reality. They were ruling the world in their mind for so long, right? And they cannot live with their idea that they are no more dominant force in this world. They are no more that relevant force in the world. And as Politico hinted basically there in an article that I shared previously, London is still dreaming about achieving strategical defeat of Russia, right? For the prolongation of this proxy war. And on this very topic, we have this report that British Marines in Norway are preparing for a war with Russia. Again, this is Politico reporting about it. So British Marines at the Camp Viking in northern Norway have begun preparing for a possible clash with Moscow, Politico reports. In the deep snow of the Arctic mountains, British Marines are preparing for a war with Russia. publication writes, according to Politico, the military is practicing their application of Article 5 of the NATO Charter on Collective Defense, according to Brigadier General Jimmy Norman, commander of the British Special Forces. Their exercises reflect the fact that we no longer live in peace. London announced their opening of the Arctic base in Norway in March 2023. It is located approximately 40 kilometers from the city of Tromsø and can accommodate their entire British coastal response group. Politico clarified that there will be 1,500 troops at their base in the spring and up to 2,000 in 2027. In recent years, Russia has noted unprecedented activity from the alliance along its western borders. The military bloc is expanding its initiatives and calling this deterrent to Moscow's aggression. Okay, Moscow's aggression against Norway? Against whom? Moscow's aggression against UK? Did we attack UK? And I missed that somehow. I don't think we attacked UK. Maybe we should, by the way. And not maybe, we definitely should retaliate on UK, 100%. We should denuclearize UK, demilitarize UK. We can means for that. We can do this. Only green light from Russian president needed, and hopefully he will issue such a green light. And not just in regards to UK, but also in regards to Germany and France, obviously. All of them have to be demilitarized, deindustrialized even. I think this is as a right price for them, for all the harm they did to Russian citizens and the Russian Federation, right? But that's their decision on behalf of Russian president. But this report itself highlights, isn't it, that London is definitely not there yet. They are not there yet. London globalists and the British ruling classes, of course, are main driving force behind the globalism. They cannot face the reality for now. They will continue this attempt, whatever they can. They will use every means in their disposal to prolong this proxy war as much as possible. And when they see that, Ukraine is no longer working, when most likely when Russian troops will reach borders of the Western Ukraine or will be close to that moment, I think there will be tremendously high risk, by the way, tremendously high risk that British ruling class, globalists, let's say, will use their influence in Poland, in the Baltic Czechoslovakia states, that is Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and in Finland, to provoke direct clashes with Russia. And then, of course, London will try to invoke Article 5, right, to basically launch a full-scale war against Russian Federation. And they will use whatever influence they have in US, right, to make sure that American troops are fighting for them, because they know they are not that stupid in London. They know that European armies alone are obsolete. Russian troops will exterminate them, right? And it will take much less time than a fight that is going on between Russian troops and troops of Kiev regime, because if anything, Russian people know how to fight, and these are civil war that is happening right now, provoked by the West, isn't it? Civil war among people of the Russian world. And so, yes, people in Poland, ordinary people in Poland, ordinary people in Finland that don't want to be part of any war, don't want to be sacrificed by globalists, ordinary people in Baltic states, they should think about their future. They should think about their future, right? Norway might get sacrificed too, by the way, because Norway is bordering with Russia on the northern tip of Kolsky Peninsula, right? Although I think Norwegian and Swedish troops probably will be deployed into Finland to launch attack on Russia through Finland, right? Maybe they will be deployed in the Baltic Czechoslovakia quasi-states too. But in any ways, there is a high probability that these Nordic these Scandinavian countries and Baltic Chihuahuas and the Poland, by the way, will be sacrificed by globalists in their pursuit of strategical defeat of Russia. I understand this, sir. I guess majority of our community also see risks of such developments, and if so, then I see no reason why American think tanks would miss this, right? Would ignore these risks. They wouldn't, right? And therefore, probably American ruling class will be informed enough to keep US out of this mess, to keep US out of this bloody mess, because if US militaries will be engaged directly in war with Russia, then that means extinction level event. That will, in that case, this conflict, war, that open war between West and Russia will quickly spiral out of control and transform into a full-scale nuclear exchange, out of which, well, humanity most likely will be done. Right now, dear friends, there was a super chat on Rumble from Dwalder, generous with generous donation and commentary, and of course I will highlight this after the new segment. Thank you very much, Dwalder, for your super chat and the donation. I appreciate your support. Thank you. You saved this week, I can say. I will explain later what I mean, and so hopefully US will stay out of this war that globalists are planning to launch directly against Russia. Hopefully US will stay out of it, because with Europe we can deal with the conventional means, right? With the European elites and their armies, by the way. Yet again, I never demonstrated any hostility towards the ordinary people, isn't it? And on this topic, yesterday I received some quite serious criticism, somewhat surprisingly to me, from some members of our community. How dare you can say that Russia and US should be allies in the future and stuff? These are bloodthirsty killers and the genocidals and this and that, these Americans. And I want to say to all the people that criticized me yesterday that, well, I mean, we should distinguish, isn't it? Ruling class in US, so-called elites, and ordinary Americans. We should always distinguish elites from the ordinary people, by the way. I mean, this is the only way to go forward, isn't it? We cannot, just because we have negative attitude toward the Western elites, it does not mean we have to hate people, ordinary people in the West, correct? I'm somewhat, it is sad, man. It is sad that I have to talk about this stuff, right? And I don't really want in our community the people to be who hates entire populations of the other countries, man, just because their elites are crazies and they're the genocidal maniacs. Let's don't hate nobody, man, right? I was, and if it was one comment or two, okay, I mean, but maybe trolls were commenting something. But there was quite a number of comments that were criticizing me. How can I say even that Russia and US are not natural enemies and should not be enemies? We should not be enemies, man, right? That's true, actually. First of all, and right, and then just because now there is this crazy ruling class in the US or in any other Western country, it does not mean that, like in 20 years from now or 30 years from now, new people, better people, not going to be in charge. And why should not we hope for that? What is wrong with this? Nothing is wrong, isn't it? And we should never ever place our anger against ordinary people, because they have nothing to do with these crazy policies that their elites, their political class is implementing, because they were never asked, actually, right? That's how it is, man, right? Anyways, I hope there will be no freaking war. I hope globalists will realize that this is useless. Their operations against Russia are useless. They lost her. Hopefully, they will come to these terms, right? And hopefully, if globalists will, and hopefully, US will stay out of it anyways, right? If globalists will launch open war against Russia in next year or 2 years, and I think that's what their actual plan is. And I'm afraid we're going to see direct clashes between European NATO troops and Russian troops towards the end of 2026 or in 2027. And I really hope I'm mistaken on that, but unfortunately, that's how I see currently the situation. Hopefully, US will stay out of it, man, because US involvement in the war will mean extinction level event. I mean, we're going to start bombing each other with the nukes. And in that case, we will not just kill each other, but we will kill everybody else too on this planet. And that's a sin which cannot be ever forgiven, right? So we don't want to die with such a sin on us, right? So let's try to avoid freaking nuclear war as much as possible, full-scale nuclear war at least, right? So US has to stay out, man. US has to stay out. Otherwise, world is done. Anyways, yes, as I said, British ruling class, this major force in globalism movement is still not there, still refuses to acknowledge the reality, and they are preparing. They are preparing for a war, open war with Russia. They are preparing their troops for open war with Russia, and they are pushing their allies or their proxies also to get ready for a war with Russia, and in some cases even to be sacrificed. Because for Finland, Baltic, Chihuahua states, quasi-states, and Poland, it will be total sacrifice if they will actually go ahead with, if they attack Russia, or if they will participate in war against Russia. It will not end well for them, man. It will not end well for nobody, generally speaking, because war is hell, but enemies of Russia will pay unbelievable price for this crime. They're going to get decimated, man. And Russia has a long-standing tradition putting European elites into their places, right? So, if Russia has done it before, once, twice, in few more instances, if Russia did manage to put into their places most powerful forces in Europe before, then we can do it now too. And we will do it now too. That's it. TASS News Agency, meanwhile, is reporting that, Putin clearly was informed, I guess, about this kind of a little change in a rhetoric in Europe. As I mentioned already, Macron spoke about dialogue with the Russian side. Meloni joined Macron, and I guess Russian president indirectly responded to that. And for example, yesterday when Russian president was meeting with their ambassadors, he said, according to TASS News Agency, that Russia stands ready to restore relationships with all European countries. That's the headline of the news. I can imagine that this headline would not go down well here in Russia, in significant parts of society, right? Because with this Europe, our question will be with which Europe? Current Europe or other Europe? Sometime in the future that will be led by decent human beings. But we don't know what Putin meant, actually. So let's go through this news. Russia is ready to restore relations with the European countries and is open to cooperation with all the countries without any exceptions. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Thursday, and we have quotes here, Russia has always been committed to such diplomatic approaches and is ready to restore the required level of relations, Putin said at their ceremony to receive diplomatic credentials from their newly appointed foreign ambassadors. On the whole, As I have repeatedly stated, Putin continues, we are open to mutually beneficial cooperation with all countries without any exceptions. The Russian president added the ceremony to receive diplomatic credentials from newly appointed foreign ambassadors was traditionally organized in the Alexander Hall of the Grand Kremlin Palace with representatives from 34 foreign countries in attendance, according to Kremlin's press office. And so this is clearly a response of the Moscow, isn't it, on this sort of a rift that even Western propaganda outlets cannot ignore no more, right? Between European capitals, continental European capitals, let's say, and London, right? And the Russian president is sending a message that, you know what, if you are looking into a future, if you are looking into times when this war is over, and you want to like test the ground for possible cooperation in some ways, right? Or to de-escalation at least, then we are open for that. And we have no issues with that. Okay, let's move this in this direction. Of course, it will take decades, by the way. It will take decades before there will be any trust in place in regards to European capitals, by the way. It will take literally decades before anybody ever in Russian leadership will dare to trust their European colleagues, right? But Moscow's message is clear that we don't want this hostility. We never wanted this hostility. It's you who started this, right? And if you are ready now to face the reality, acknowledge the reality, and move on, then okay, do whatever is necessary for that, and we are here. This is a very serious message, by the way, very serious message to European elites and French ruling class, Italian ruling class, German ruling class that suffered tremendously. I mean, economies of these countries, economies which suffered tremendously due to this war that globalists and their allies launched on Russia. Well, they have a good enough reason now, right? Good enough reason to confront London a little more actively, right? And oppose London in its madness a little more actively, because they don't have to go all the way, right? They don't have to sacrifice their own countries, this ruling class in continental European countries. They don't have to do this for a British ruling class, for the interests or the ambitions of the British ruling class. They just don't have to do this. So Moscow is issuing green light for European capitals. Yet again, even Merz start to talk about some dialogue with Russia, right? So I guess German elites, economical elites, financial elites, the ruling class in general is also not happy, man. Germany is being decimated. German economy is being decimated, man. It's in a recession for how many years now, right? And they know Russia is not their enemies, man. That's their most important also thing. Everybody in Europe, all these elites in Europe, they know Russia has no plans to attack them. Never had plans to attack them, right? It's globalists, it's London basically that attack Russia, right? And the continental European countries are fighting on behalf of London. That's all. And they have a green light now from Moscow to try and decouple themselves from London. Will they manage this or not is anybody's guess, but I think very clever move on part of Russian president there, by the way. Statement itself here in Russia may not go down well, because without her explanation, people might find it difficult to digest. I mean, how are we going to cooperate? Are we open to cooperate with these ones that send weapons and kill our people? And I understand this absolutely, right? But Putin is talking about future, not today or tomorrow. Putin is talking about future, right? And Putin is playing clever game to assist in the decoupling of continental European capitals from London. And this is a very good stuff, by the way. We have to help Paris, Rome, Berlin, others to gain little more or as much as possible freedom from London, by the way. Anyways, let's continue with some other news. And of course, Greenland continues to make headlines. How else? And and Europe, dear friends. Yesterday, I shared the information, isn't it, that a number of European countries send their militaries to Greenland, probably to I don't know, man. Probably to demonstrate their strength or unity or whatever. I don't know. I mean, it's a freak show that is happening, by the way, in the West nowadays, right? And you know how? And yesterday I mentioned that it's only like few soldiers, few military personnel, soldiers, officers that were sent. And of course, here in Russia, by the way, many media outlets, and I guess elsewhere too, were laughing about this stuff, understandably so. Europe has recruited slightly more than a platoon to defend the Greenland from the US. Platoon, by the way, 30 troops. So at Copenhagen's request, European NATO countries are prepared to send just over 30 troops to defend Greenland from the United States, RIA Novosti estimates. On Wednesday, Danish armed forces announced that they would strengthen their military presence in the area in close cooperation with NATO allies and intensify training activities on the island. 7 European countries in the bloc have already announced their intention to send troops. A total of 34 soldiers are expected to arrive in Greenland soon. 34 soldiers, by the way, and officers. Where we should laugh. I mean, this is just it's so crazy what is going on there, isn't it? In the West, collective West, generally speaking, and in regards to this Greenland topic, specifically, that it's really not even laughable no more. I mean, it's just too freaking sad, man. Europe is sending 34 troops. I mean, why? Why? I mean, why? If it was like a couple of brigades, okay, one might say this is a strong message to Washington, right? That no, they're not going to mess around the European nation. But 34 soldiers, this is not a message to Washington. This is nothing, literally. This is just a reason, additional reason. They are giving additional reason to Americans to laugh, right? And to go ahead and annex Greenland if they want to. What 34 troops, man? Unbelievable. And of course, no one will ask how many millions of euros they will spend transferring these 34 troops. Some of them already arrived, by the way. UK sent one officer, by the way. France sent 15, I believe. Germany is planning to send 13 militaries, and there are some few other countries that will also send a few people. This is NATO for you. NATO, by the way. NATO member is about to be run over by another NATO member state, and all Denmark received in support is 34 troops. And you know what? Some rumors began circulating on internet. I don't know if this is true or not. It's just, that's why I'm saying it's rumors. But I have seen such speculations on the big channels too, that allegedly Denmark is requiring its F-16s to be sent back from Ukraine. Allegedly, Denmark is asking Kyiv regime to give them back F-16s because they might need them to defend Greenland or something. Yet again, I'm not sure that this is true, but I mean, might be the case, you know. And of course, Washington pays attention to this deployment of European troops. This great contingent of expeditionary corps from Europe, by the way, 34 troops, right? And the press spokesman of the White House was asked about it, and Caroline Lewitt said their dispatch of European military personnel to Greenland does not affect Trump's decision to take control of their island. The White House states, or Caroline Lewitt stated, and okay, I mean, who would think otherwise? If yet again, if France, Germany, UK, Spain, Denmark itself, Netherlands, by the way, neighboring Netherlands, if they will say Belgium, by the way, and others, Italy, Portugal, if all of them said, if each a European NATO member state send their, okay, maybe not a brigade, but at least battalion, at least let's say 400, 500, 600 military personnel, equipment and all that stuff, at least if they would make such a claim, that could play some sort of a deterrent, isn't it? Because then Washington might think, you know what, all these like dozens of countries are now saying that they're gonna fight us if we occupy Greenland. Well, that's too bad, right? That could be work as a deterrent, isn't it? Because I don't think Washington dreams about fighting all European countries. But 34 soldiers, what kind of message is that? Come and take the island? That's it, isn't it? It's not deterrent, it's nothing. It's invitation, actually, for the US. It's invitation that, you know what, we are just too freaking weak. We might talk hard, but in reality, that's all we can, man. 34 troops. So just come and take this freaking island and let's finish this story. That's how Americans gonna see it, isn't it? Anyways, Iran, topic of Iran, dear friends, of course, is also making headlines worldwide, including here in Russia. And, well, reports are now in the media that allegedly Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Oman used their diplomatic ties with the US, their influence to basically not to force Washington to stand down and not to attack Iran, but to rethink the position, right? And for example, Commerçant newspaper is also reporting about it, that authorities of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Oman have issued US President Donald Trump to refrain from attacking Iran, fearing serious regional consequences. And of course, there would be serious regional consequences, by the way, 100%. Right? Could be true. Maybe not. I even see some reports, by the way, in the media that allegedly Netanyahu also asked Washington to refrain from attack. And I find it difficult to believe that Netanyahu asked Trump to restrain, but maybe he did. But in my personal opinion, nothing was decided yet on part of West. All this talks about de-escalation on behalf of Israel or the US could be part of deception operation. Well, might be, right? And there are many reports are coming in about more and more assets, military assets, being redeployed or redirected towards the Middle East by Pentagon. Not just aircraft carrier strike group, but also other means, right? And maybe all we are observing now is a attack being postponed for a little while, because to me personally it was obvious already 2 days ago when reports start coming in about imminent attack of US that Americans did not really have much resources there for a large-scale decisive strike. They just don't have enough resources. So I was thinking, what they're gonna do? They might have a couple of submarines in the area, a couple of frigates or something. They can launch like a few hundred rockets, but it's not gonna be like decisive, right? It's gonna be harmful, but not decisive. It will literally change nothing. And Iran's response could be much more devastating for US and Israel. So I guess that's what is going on. US will bring in more and more assets, and probably they will go ahead with their attacks on Iran after that. Probably, although I don't think they will succeed. there are also reports, maybe you have also seen reports that according to US intelligence assessments, according to US military assessments, even with the large-scale assault on Iran, aerial, long-range assault on Iran, let's say, current system, political system in Iran would not collapse. Ground forces will be needed. And this might be the topic that will actually deter Washington from, especially like before midterm elections, right? To go ahead and actually get engaged in yet another forever war, this time against Iran. So either they're gonna be no strikes, or strikes have been postponed for some time. Let's say this way. And this is an opportunity. This is definitely an opportunity for not just Iran but also regional countries to get together, and also for China and Russia, India, also to assist Iran with whatever means are necessary, and maybe even to make it clear for the entire world that neither China neither Russia will allow regional war or regional destabilization to happen in the Middle East. Maybe such a statement has to be made publicly, right, to deter Western ruling class that is interested and very much focused on destabilizing entire Middle East, right, to launch, to provoke a regional war on the sectarian and ethnic lines, to shut down navigation through Persian in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait, right, and cut off China from Middle Eastern energy sources. So maybe more decisive actions are needed from China and Russia to deter. India too, by the way. I mean, I don't know how free India feels itself, right, to get engaged on this top level geopolitical game. India may not feel quite comfortable yet to be there, but Russia and China definitely have to make stand. We cannot allow Western ruling class to succeed in destabilization of the Middle East. We just cannot allow them to do this. And if necessary, we will have to deploy our troops, our navy. We have to do whatever is necessary to keep Middle East as stable as possible, and to keep navigation in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait open and safe. It's our strategical interest, by the way. And I have explained quite a few times why is that. But yet again, earlier there was a report that Trump wants a decisive attack and this and that, but probably he was informed that, you know what, you're not going to topple the government in Iran with like a couple of hundred missiles, right? It's Iran is a very serious country, brother. Very serious country, right? And without ground forces, I don't think U.S. Will be in a position, US and its allies will be in a position to actually conduct regime change successfully. And if they will bring ground forces, then that's going to be total disaster for US, because they're not going to be able to defeat people of Iran. And no way, brother. No way, not possible. No one can defeat people of Iran on the ground battle. You might have superiority in air, at sea, but on the ground, it's their land, brother. They will fight like lions, right? And you are foreigner on their land. You're not going to succeed, man. You're not going to succeed. So this is message for Americans, right? That may be dreaming about occupying Iran or stuff like that. And Lindsey Graham was quite unhappy, by the way. Maybe he was messing around. Maybe he was playing part in deception operation, or maybe he was genuinely sad that US didn't attack Iran. I have to show you a video. When I see this video, I was thinking, is this actually like genuine reaction of this individual, Lindsey Graham, this warhawk, or he's just messing around and playing some games? He said that question is scale of attack. Attack itself, according to him, is kind of imminent. Could be true, by the way. But he seems not very depressed in this video, by the way, very unhappy. He's almost crying here. So let me show you. Let me show you the video. Just look.
Out there that are, in my view, not accurate. President Trump's resolve is not the question. The question is, when we do an operation like this, should it be bigger or smaller? I'm in the camp of bigger. Time will tell. I'm hopeful and optimistic that the regime days are numbered.
So you tell me, dear friends, what's going on? Is he actually that depressed that U.S. did not launch another war, or what? Or he's playing? Is he that good of an actor to play in a deception, play part in a deception operation, or he's actually upset? I don't know. I don't know this warmonger any better than you. So I don't know what's going on there, but he looks like he's about to cry that U.S. did not launch another war, man. People from whichever state this person is in Senate, man, those people hopefully will think better and elect someone else, man. Lindsey Graham is a embarrassment of whole of humanity, not just U.S., but whole of humanity, I will say, right? This is just too much, man. And hopefully, residents of their state, from whichever this guy is, will make better decisions next time. So yes, I wanted to share with you this video. Let's hope adequate people will prevail in Washington, and U.S. will restrain itself from launching another forever war and from attacking Iran. Iran has suffered already tremendously. Iranian people suffered already tremendously due to illegal activity of the U.S. and their U.S. allies. And if anything, U.S. has to do is apologize for people to Iranian people and lift all the illegal sanctions that they imposed. And everyone should remember, by the way, that it is nobody's business how people or nations in other countries live. Right? It's I might be 100% in favor of secular society. I grew up in secular society, and I cannot imagine how life is in a theocratic society. I just have no freaking idea how it is, right? I would not say it's good or bad. I just don't know, right? And I'm all in support of secular society because I know this way of life. I think it's good. It has its strong and weak sides, but I feel comfortable here. But same time, who am I or who is anybody to tell people in other countries how to live? Which social construct should they adopt? Which political system should they have? Who are we, man? We should take care of ourselves, our families, our societies, our countries, right? It's none of our business what is going on in Iran and how Iranian society is operating. It's their business, right? And we all understand, by the way, that every time there is uprising, right, for economical issues or social issues or for whatever, every time this happens, reasoning is illegal sanctions from the West, from the US and the West, right? And whenever these are absolutely legit, initially on the initial phases, absolutely legit, understandable protests of the people, every time these legit protests are hijacked by Western and Israeli assets, right? And transformed into mass riots and hell. It happened this time around too, correct? And if anything, everyone should stay away everyone with negative intentions should stay away from other countries, including Iran. That's, I guess, only right approach, by the way. Let the Iranian people decide for themselves. I mean, this is one of the oldest civilizations, by the way, in this world, right? Maybe some people don't know, but this is one of the oldest civilizations we're talking about. And somehow they will decide for themselves, man. They don't need teaching from nobody. 100%. They will teach younger nations and the civilizations, right? Because of the weight of their experience, historical experience. But they don't need no freaking teaching from nobody, right? Let's keep that in mind, man. We are talking about one of the oldest freaking human civilization here. And somehow someone from Europe, but by the way, when there was a civilization built by ancestors of modern Iranians, people in Europe, literally, by the way, people in Europe, all over the Europe, were running in a forest naked. They did not just did not build like villages yet or the cities yet. They were freaking living in a forest. That's how big of a difference civilizational differences, right? Let's not forget, never forget, right? History. And let's have some respect for others. And unfortunately, very many Westerners think themselves to be like pinnacle of the civilization while knowing nothing about human history. And this is upsetting, man, right? And we should also always remember that Iranians are Iranian-speaking people, let's say this way, and my people are my Ossetian people, descendants of Alans, by the way, Skytho-Sarmatians, right? These are builders in many ways of a modern world. And they play a crucial role in establishing European civil nations, right? Even. If you're wondering what am I talking about, just go through some history, man. It's out there. So let's have some respect, by the way, for these OGs, man, in this world, right? And Iran is definitely OG when it comes to human civilizations, for sure, man, right? And then we're gonna take no freaking lecturing from US, like a quasi-state, wannabe empire quasi-state that was established some freaking 250 years ago, man. Really? Anyways, let's continue, by the way. And let's talk about Trump's dreams becoming true, right? Yes, I mean, it's a sad story in reality. We can laugh about it, but it's also a sad story. Probably very many Americans are very ashamed of her, especially ashamed of their political class right now. Intellectual class in US probably are horrified, man, with their own political class, right? Because Trump actually forced Machado, this so-called opposition leader in Venezuela, to give up her Nobel Peace Prize and to give it to Trump. I reported earlier, isn't it, that when Trump said during one of his interactions with the journalists that Machado, I mean, when he brushed off Machado, basically, that Machado has no respect in Venezuela, has no influence, has no support. So, who the hell is Machado? That's what he said, isn't it? And he made it clear that he sees no Machado in the decision-making process in regards to Venezuela. And straight after that, speculations began on the internet that Trump was very upset on Machado because she got Nobel Peace Prize and he didn't. And straight away, publicly even, by the way, some public figures in the West, in the US, start calling on Machado to give up Nobel Peace Prize, to give it to Trump. And so maybe Trump will find a place for her in Venezuela. And that's what she did. That's what she did there. Yesterday, he met with the Trump in the White House, I believe, and she gave gifted to Trump this Nobel Peace Prize, which is sickening, isn't it? This is sickening, man. Trump is a president of a superpower, by the way. Trump is we might like it or not, right? But Trump is a president of a superpower, nuclear superpower, economical powerhouse too, by the way. US is still, number one or number two, but still, major economy in this world, extremely influential. And Trump is a president of this powerhouse, failing wannabe empire, okay, but still powerhouse, still for now powerhouse. And he's acting like I don't know, man, little kid, and he wants some price, and parents are not, or he wants to buy something in the store, and parents say no, and Trump is going crazy. I want this. What the hell, man? This Machado person that I don't really like. I don't have any respect, by the way, for any Western puppets. I don't have any respect for any puppets, right? With exception of animal puppets. I don't have any respect for human puppets, and definitely not for Machado. I don't have any respect for a Nobel Committee and their decision-making process, for sure. Nobel Peace Prize is a joker since it was given, at least since that prize was given to Obama for nothing, literally nothing, in advance, right? But still, man, Trump is a president of this wannabe empire, right? And acting this crazy, forcing some people to give up their prices. Why, man? Why no one stopped them? Do they understand how damaging, in terms of reputation, this shit is for whole of US, man? Not just for presidential institution, but for whole of US, because people worldwide gonna think this is the country that is led by this moron. This is the country that is led by this individual who is acting like that. So if people of this country are okay with such a behavior, then probably many people are on the same level. That's how world gonna interpret this stuff, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Of course, whole world gonna laugh about this news, man. This is just too freaking bad. Too bad. US President Donald Trump has received the Nobel Peace Prize from Venezuelan opposition activist Maria Corina Machado. Fox News reported, and we have quote here, I am getting word from White House officials that Machado insisted that she give the Nobel medal to the president, and he did accept it. Host Bertha Bayer said during in a Fox News broadcast. So too bad, man. Too bad. And this picture is circulating on internet right now of, I don't know, is this a real picture or this is an AI? Nowadays, you just cannot be sure, right? But that's the picture that is circulating on internet. Trump standing next to Machado and holding this Nobel Peace Prize medal. Just too bad, man. I'm lost for words. I'm quite sure 100% of members of our community from US are kind of also disappointed. I mean, at least disappointed in this stuff because it's too low, man. What are you doing? It's just too freaking low, man. Don't act this way. Like, be a little more serious. What's going on here? And well, things went so bad, right? The whole world is laughing and will laugh for forever now, whenever there will be talks about Nobel Peace Prize and stuff, and Trump's legacy. And the Nobel Peace Center made a comment on this matter, and let me read what they said. Right, we all know this, but nevertheless, this is from Nobel Peace Center. Quote, but one truth remains. As the Norwegian Nobel Committee states, once a Nobel Prize is announced, it cannot be revoked, shared, or transferred to others. Decision is final and stands for all time. A medal can change owners, but the title of a Nobel Peace Prize laureate cannot. which is, yeah, logical, right? It's basis. It's just their basis. And just because Trump can hold now this medal, is not means that he get there. He's Nobel Peace Laureate, right? Did not anyone explain this to him? Or tomorrow and day after, we're gonna see how Trump is bragging about being Nobel Peace Laureate and stuff. Too bad, man. Too bad, right? And this wannabe Nobel Peace Laureate authorized the hijacking of another tanker, and I would say another act of war from U.S. against Russia, because I have seen reports that this sixth tanker that was hijacked by U.S. Militaries were also under the Russian flag. Let's go through some details here. U.S. military forces have detained their tanker Veronica in the Caribbean. U.S. Southern Command reported their operation was carried out before dawn by Marine and Navy forces from Joint Task Force Southern Spear. The Department of Homeland Security and Justice provided support. The landing was carried out from aircraft carrier USS Gerald Ford. And as I said, dear friends, so this is a sixth tanker hijacked by U.S. militaries, hijacked by U.S. Washington. And according to some reports that I see, this tanker is among 25 others that changed its registration and the flag. And allegedly, this tanker, Veronica, was flying Russian flag. And whenever you are hijacking, I think this is act of war. When militaries, by the way, are hijacking vessel under their whichever country's flag, I think this is actually act of war against that country. And yeah, I guess we have to do something about it, man. I guess we have to do something about it. And most likely, Russian intelligence community, Russian military leadership is working on plans how to deter, or at least try to deter, U.S. from this piracy in open sea, right? Because if U.S. can do it, is like that, then well, London already stated, isn't it, that British ruling class already said that they are looking for to adopt ways to hijack Russian tankers also, and well, this will just continue. It will become chain, isn't it? If they can do and others, and why Finland cannot do this, or why Baltic Chihuahuas cannot? Yeah, if Americans can and Brits can, right? And eventually we might not be able to operate civilian navy in open sea. So something definitely has to be done. This is not normal. This is not okay. We all understand this. No matter who is doing it, man. Act of war is act of war, and we have to deter U.S. somehow, man. I'm not saying that we have to now attack U.S. or anything. No, man. God forbid we and U.S. ever end up in a full-scale war or something like that. That will be end of everything, right? That will be end of humanity. But we have to deter U.S. and hopefully Russian security services, Russian militaries will come up with something, right? They have to, because this is clearly not okay, right? A few more news, dear friends. India is a rare earth mining pact in Russia and Africa, which is interesting. Great news. India is exploring rare earth mining pact with Russia, Australia, Argentina, Chile, and several African countries. Reuters has reported New Delhi, the search for alternative supplies comes in response to curbs announced by China on rare earths and related technologies. In October 2025, Beijing began restricting exports of permanent magnets, batteries, and battery components, as well as processing technologies after trade tensions with the US intensifies. So, you know what? India more than welcome. I'm quite sure, by the way, India and all the other friendly nations, and India, by the way, is a strategical partner of Russia. So it's not just a friendly nation; it's a strategical partner. So India, I'm quite sure, more than welcome, and all the other partners to do business with Russia in any field, actually, rare earth or IT technologies, whatever, right? Let's do more business together. It's a great news, by the way, great news, and of course, cooperation. If we look at the numbers when it comes to trade between Russia and India, I mean, there is such a great prospect there to not just double or triple this trade and business between each other, but to, I don't know, man, increase it 10 times, man, potentially in next like 2 decades, let's say. So we have to work in this direction, and I love this news, sir. I love whenever there is a news about cooperation between Russia and friendly nations, sir. And my attitude towards India, by the way, I consider India to be most strategical partner to Russia, more important than China, in my personal opinion, right? Much more important than China, actually, I would say this way. Although from whole world, of course, there is a Belarus. With Belarus, we have obviously together country, confederation, by the way, right? Belarus is different, but from outside of the former Soviet Union, of course, I consider India to be closest country to Russia, strategical partner, and we have to be friends and strategical partners forever, man. Forever. We just have to be. It's in strategical security interests of the both, for quite understandable reasons. Maybe sometime in the future, by the way, when US will be led by some adequate people, good people, maybe US will also join, right? That will be helpful to keep peace in this world and to avoid unipolarity of the world, to keep it multipolar, right? But in any case, Russia and India are destined to be brothers forever, man. I will say this way. Also, U.S. meanwhile is escalating with China too, and for example, Washington and Taiwan have concluded their trade deal. U.S. will reduce tariffs on Taiwan to a 15%. Taiwan will invest 250 billion in the U.S. And well, of course, mainland China not going to be happy about any links between or increased links between U.S. and Taiwan because Taiwan is China, of course, and any U.S. dealings with Taiwan have to go through China, man. Have to go through Beijing. After all, U.S. agrees on a one China policy, right? And that means there is a one China. Taiwan is a part of China, period. But US acts like there is no one China policy in place for quite a while now, which definitely frustrates Chinese leadership, understandably so. So the head of US Department of Commerce, Lutnick, stated that he is not concerned about the possibility of a breakdown in trade negotiations with China due to a trade deal with Taiwan or their imposition of tariffs on the goods from countries doing business with Iran. And okay, by the way, I mean, U.S. Political class seems like feel themselves to be invincible for anything, absolutely invincible. And well, they're gonna learn hard way, I guess, that they are wrong, and they will learn hard way, man. It's just inevitable. It's just inevitable. And I will end news segment, dear friends, on this information from TASS News Agency that Russia cuts oil and gas revenues by 24% in 2025 to $108.05 billion. So Russia's oil and gas revenues in 2025 declined by 23.8%, almost 24, compared with the 2024 previous year, totaling 8.4 trillion rubles or $108 billion, basically, according to materials released by the Russian Finance Ministry. in 2024, the figure stood at 11 trillion rubles, which is 141 plus billion dollars. In December, Russia's oil and gas revenues failed by 43.3% year-on-year terms to 447.8 billion rubles or $5.71 billion. Compared with November, the figure declined by 15.7% to 447.8 billion rubles or $5.71 billion dollars. And so basically, yes, Russia's income through energy means is of course declining. First of all, because of the sanctions, obviously. Secondly, prices on energy is failing too. Prices of oil is around like $50+ at this point, I guess. Price on Russian oil, Urals, probably around 40, 45. If Brent price is 50, max 55, then Urals will trade 40, 45. I guess Urals is always little less than Brent, right? Low numbers, by the way, low numbers, and I don't think there is a reasons to believe that prices on oil will increase. Hopefully, China and Russia will make sure that there going to be no regional destabilization in the Middle East. Navigation in the Persian Gulf and Hormuz Strait going to stay open, and in that case, I see no objective reason why would prices on oil rise rapidly or significantly in this year. There might be some up and downs, but generally speaking, it will stay probably between $55 and $70 for a barrel, right? In any case, Russian income through energy sector, energy exports, let's say this way, will decrease this year also. Objectively speaking, I mean, this is inevitable, but it will have no much influence on the Russian economy itself, generally, in general terms, right? Generally speaking, because as I have said many times before, by the way, Western ruling class might talk about Russia being a gas station all day long, 24/7, but in reality, Russian economy has been diversified very significantly during the Putin's presidency, right? Putin's and Medvedev's presidency. And therefore, energy sector is not playing that crucial role in Russian economy no more. And I believe agricultural sector brings in more money than energy sector. So therefore, there's going to be some decline, obviously, in 2026 also in terms of income from energy exports. But we will deal with it. It's not going to be devastating for the Russian economy and the Russian financial or the banking system. We can deal with it, right? But that's what is happening. I think there is such attention towards the Russian energy sector that when I see this news, I was thinking I have to share this information too with the community, so that we all will have a better understanding what's going on. So in 2025, Russia made $108.05 billion as an income. Russian federal budget, I guess, right? This is or this is overall income. Anyways, by the way, as I said, energy sector is not playing that crucial role nowadays in Russian economy, and if anybody is dreaming about destroying Russian economy while imposing sort of embargo or sanctions on Russian energy, they're gonna fail. They already failed, by the way. They already failed. And dear friends, oh wow. I have to highlight now, dear friends. I have to highlight. There was a super chat on Rumble. Let me highlight, dear friends. Super chat from Dwalda. This is the super chatter. Thank you very much, Dwalder, for your super chatter, for your comment and very generous donation of $50. Comment from Dwalder is a good morning, Levan. Do you think Trump ordered that attack on President Putin's residence? Well, that's the big question, isn't it? I personally, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually did. But same time, I wouldn't be also surprised if this Russia House, so-called Russia House in CIA, did not find it necessary to brief Trump on the matter. Because according to Ushakov's statement, or according to information, it was Ushakov, I believe, but no, according to reports in the media, by the way, Trump himself, he heard about this attack from Putin during the phone conversation, right? And according to reports that I have seen, he was genuinely shocked. We know Trump can play. We know this. He's a showman, right? So he can play, but maybe he was actually genuine and he did not knew that there was an attack on Russian president's residency. Because yet again, CIA already demonstrated on numerous occasions that they are operating on their own turf, right? And they might not necessarily brief their even president of the country about dodgy activity, the criminal activity or terrorist activity that they are engaged in. So therefore, I'm not sure, Dwalda, that Trump was actually informed about it. I don't think he was. I mean, I have no strong opinion on that, but I think there is a high probability that he was not briefed on that. Because attack on Putin, you know what? It's just I don't know, man. It's too much even for Trump, isn't it? It's just too high a risk. And well, Trump himself spoke quite a number of times about potential devastating aftermath of the nuclear war between nuclear superpowers. And I don't think he's that vicious to actually destine this world for nuclear obliteration. And you think what would happen if they actually killed the Russian president? Of course, there would be a risk that we would end up in a full-scale war. I don't know. Yet again, I have no strong opinion, by the way. Maybe he knew. Maybe he is just that reckless. You know, Dwalda. Maybe he is just that reckless, man. That he was briefed that we're going to attack Putin's residency. And maybe he said, oh, okay, just do it. Maybe, you know, maybe not. You know. Well, thank you very much, Dwaldo, once again. I want to think Trump did not know about it. I mean, I want to believe that he did not know. But there is definitely a probability that he was briefed on that. So that's why, because very little information is available, I don't really have a strong opinion on the matter. Thank you very much, Dwalder, for your question and super chat on Rumble and a very generous donation of the $50. Thank you very much. Also, dear friends, there was a donation through PayPal, by the way. Very generous. What a day, man. Dwalder and Douglas, who donated right now through PayPal $100. You made, and also Scooby, by the way, who was supporting my work all week with his super chats. You definitely made this week. I was asking Anna right before I launched the live stream that this week there was only one donation through PayPal, and many thanks to member of community who donated there. It was a $12, I believe, on Monday or Tuesday, and I was like thinking that January gonna be a difficult month in terms of survivability of this project, and you look what happened, man. Dwalder, thank you very much once again for very generous donation through Rumble, and Douglas, thank you very much for your very generous donation of $100 through PayPal. I appreciate your support. Thank you very much. And I already said that Scooby, member of our community, was supporting my work through Super Chat on Rumble whole week, by the way. And today is no exception. And let me, dear friends, highlight to Scooby's Super Chat from now. Some interesting suggestion from Scooby here. So let me highlight this. Thank you very much, Scooby, for your super chat and supporter. $5 donation again. And Scooby is commenting, switch to Linux. So yeah, I understand, to switch from Windows to Linux. Thank you for suggestions, Scooby. I never worked on Linux. Is it easy to operate? I wonder if it's like intuitive to operate on a Linux. And if all the programs that I use on Rumble on Windows, if all these programs would operate on Linux too. I have to find out. You are not the first, Scooby, who said that Linux is allegedly better, but I have never worked on a device, on notebook or their PC that had a Linux on it. I'm gonna Google it. I'm gonna learn some more about their stuff. You see, there is also. Let me once again thank you very much, Scooby, for your super chat and $5 donation. And Scooby also commenting right now on Rumble. Apparently, Russian government is telling citizens to switch to Linux. At least that's what web search told me. Interesting. I did not hear anything about this. I have not seen in either article on that or a report on such statement. But I'm gonna do some little research today, and let's see what's going on around this subject. If government officials are, government. I don't think government officials necessarily are recommending citizens to switch to Linux. That would be counterproductive. Government officials, if anything, they should actually recommend businesses, Russian IT companies, to develop a Russian operational system. That would be a right move. And I know some work is done in this direction, but we don't really have a general, widespread Russian operational system, and we need one, right? We need one. That would be more secure than this foreign, isn't it? Windows or whatever else we use. But I'm gonna learn about this, Scooby. And if Linux is better than Windows, let's see what kind of articles are on the matter, and maybe I will consider to switch to it. I have to. On the point, I have to reinstall Windows on this notebook anyways, because it clearly is not working properly, right? And maybe I should just install Linux instead. You see? Also, Scooby is commenting, Russian ministry trying to build the Linux community, and there is Russian version of Linux. Oh, thank you very much, Scooby. I didn't knew. Last time I hear about Linux anything, probably years ago. So thank you, and you give me something to think about. So thank you very much for this explanation. Once again, thank you very much, Scooby, for being very supportive. Truly grateful. So thank you. And dear friends, this is it for today's new segment. Hopefully you liked it. Russian version. Russian version is called Astra, according to Scooby. I have not heard about Astra anything. But yet again, you see, vek živi, vek učis, as one Russian say goes, which means century live, century learn. So there's always something new to learn, always. Thank you, Scooby. And this is it for today's new segment, dear friends. Have a wonderful Friday, great upcoming weekend, and see you next time. Bye for now.